knowing that you have some experience with this, I'm going to share some probably just some applications and certainly some examples of things that typically aren't used, because I worked for Makey Makey for 5 years up until the spring of 2020. And they found out about me because I had given a TEDx talk where I briefly mentioned their product, and I had volunteered to help a friend of mine, a math and computer science teacher here in Asheville, and his students, I helped guide his students to design, build, and deliver assistive technology solutions for elementary school kids living with severe and profound physical and cognitive disabilities. So, which was a pretty cool process, a design challenge. And I'm happy to share more about that with you at some point if you're curious. So the first thing that I want to mention is when you are designing your arcade challenge, and I've seen other groups do similar things, actually with teachers, as an in-service. The biggest challenge I've seen, not just with arcade challenge or arcade designs, but almost anything, is that the earth on the Makey Makey, let's see if I can show you this. So this earth bar right here, the design, the structure that they have built has they haven't put enough effort into establishing a really solid connection with Earth. And I'm going to explain that here in just a second I'm going to attach my Makey Makey over on my other computer. Let's see. Let me get my other computer. It's fallen asleep. Oh, here we go. Good. Okay. I'm going to switch cameras. All right. So I'm hoping you can still hear me, and I'm going to look over at the chat to see, and if you have a question, you can also unmute yourself. So in this example that I just pulled up from the Makey Makey website, that's a pretty terrible, it's so blur. Oh gosh, let me see if I can tone that down a little bit. Oh, that works a little better. Okay, so in this example of the bongos, it's just using the space key, and oh, you can't even see that. The space key and the left arrow key. So when I plug in my Makey Makey, of course, there is no software. And luckily this is a Chromebook. Oh, I meant to show you this. I'm going to unplug this again. So when I plug this in, one way you know your Makey Makey is working correctly is you can see the lights quickly go around. And interestingly, the arrow is pointing down. Okay, so I can operate this. Let me take a step back. The moment you plug this in, your computer thinks that you've plugged in an external keyboard. That's it. So that's why there's no software, just like if you plugged in an external keyboard on any computer. So I've seen this used on Chromebooks, Apple, Windows machines, oh gosh, and so Linux. I've seen it work on that. Basically, and even an iPad, if the iPad is running the latest operating system, which recognizes keystrokes. That's the biggest challenge, is does the operating system recognize keystrokes? So I'm not sure why this light is on. That is odd. That shouldn't be there. I'm going to unplug that and replug it. There we go. Oh, it did it again. I don't know why that is. So now that I have this, of course, you have these alligator clips that you can use. Whoops. I got mine tangled, and I actually pulled the ends of my alligator clips off so that they're exposed like this. So, and I realize that some of you have a lot of experience with the Makey Makey, but for those of you who don't, actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to connect to Earth here with one alligator clip, and now, because I want to be able to operate the left arrow key, I'm going to connect the alligator to the left arrow key. Now, basically, for all of the functions on the Makey Makey on the front and the back, you're trying to figure out a way in your design to connect the function that you want to control to Earth or the ground there. So in this instance, I can just connect these two like this, and you can see that the light turns on. I think you can see that. Yeah, I'm looking at my screen. So that's one way. And I can also just hold this and hold here. And so now I can do that. Now, if I want to operate the space bar, I've got to connect something to that as well that's conductive. In this case, I'm using an alligator clip. So now I've got two things on the Makey Makey. I'm going to try to untangle my wires here. I've got two things here that I want to control with the Makey Makey, the space bar and the left arrow key. Now, if I touch these, of course, nothing happens. And if I take the Earth and complete the circuit, and if I touch both of them, you'll notice that the screen that I'm operating both of them. So with that concept, there are lots of different ways, and I'm going to show you just a couple for the purposes of your arcade design, is getting things to happen in a fun and unusual way. So, I can tear this. Let's see here. I'm going to just attach this to here. And let's say that you wanted a sound to happen when a ball hits, when a ball strikes something. So there's a couple ways to do that. One is, let's say that I have, oops, that's interesting. Look at that. I touched my touch sensitive screen with these. So I'm gonna, let me untangle these. So let's say, oops, so if I just touch this, all right, that's one way to activate that. Let's say I create a conductive ball, and I'm gonna put these close together. Oops. So this ball strikes these two at the same time, and because this ball is conductive, it creates a connection. Now, let's pretend that I don't have a conductive ball. Let's say I just have this cardboard as an example of like a rubber ball. One of the things that you can do is put the two pieces so that when one strikes the other and it lifts off, that could be a part of your arcade game. In other words, they simply brush by each other. And that could be caused by a ball or something striking it, this type of thing. Now, I'm going to take another step back and show you something else while I have this here. I am currently working on actually, earlier this spring with the Asheville Maker Faire, I volunteer with my local maker space. I built a interactive geodesic dome, and a single frequency dome, which means all 25 struts are the same length. And I was recently invited to a big Comic-Con. I've only been to one Comic-Con in my life, but this one is a big new one. And someone who saw my geodesic dome this past spring in April at the Maker Faire invited me to bring my geodesic dome. So I was just doing some work to that, and I thought I'd show you this Makey Makey here that I've dedicated to the dome project. because what I want you to see is on here is that I've just taken some wire and I've soldered it to the front over here. And at the end of all of these lines, I have these cool, this is new for me. A friend of mine who's an electrician pointed me to these things. I don't know if you've ever seen these. Try to show this to you. So it's got these levers on both sides that really make a solid connection. And the reason you might want to consider using something like this is because as you transport your arcade game from point A to point B, from the university to Delaware, and you have to reconfigure that whole thing, this makes it so much easier. So I can put this in on this side, and that clamps down, and that is just solid as can be. And on my geodesic dome, which I'll show you a video of a little bit later, I have all these wires coming up, 25 wires, and I can put each wire in here and put that on there like that. What I did this past spring that was not so great is I actually soldered on alligator clips, and it just, the connections weren't solid, and it worked most of the time, but it didn't work some of the time. Now, while I have you here, I'm going to show you the back of this thing, but I should show you this first on the back of this new Makey Makey. And that is, let's see here, let me get a pointer. Here on the, I feel like I'm doing surgery. I'm looking at my Zoom screen behind me. So over here on the front, obviously I can control the up, down, left, right, space, and click keys. On the back, I can use jumper wires to control WASDFG. And over here on this side, it's set up to control mouse functions. So scroll right, scroll left, scroll up and down, and left and right click. Now, there is something that I have done on this Makey Makey, and that is I have 20, I told you I have 25 struts, and I needed 20 different connection points to operate different sounds on this big geodesic dome. It's I don't know, 7 feet tall, something like that. And so I have the WASDF, and then on this side right here, what I have done is I have it connected to the mouse controls. However, on this particular Makey Makey, you can see that I've written myself a note. I've remapped it, and I've called this my dome. This particular Makey Makey I've dedicated to my dome. And remapping, has anybody, I'm looking at the chat, has anybody here remapped a Makey Makey? If so, say yes in the chat. And I'm not, oh, good, okay. So here's why I wanted to remap is I'm using a program in Scratch. Does anybody use Scratch? Are any of you Scratch aficionados? Scratch.mit.edu. I don't, again, this is going to be glary. I'm going to have to share my screen on my iMac, but a friend of mine, let's see, my stuff has written some code for me, and let's see if I can show you what this looks like. And I can show you a little bit about Scratch. This might be hard for you to hear. This has got different sound files that rotate, so I can play. So I can control, so I have 9 different sounds here that I can control, and this So Scratch is allowing me, my friend who made this and has built it off of another program that's free to get on the Makey Makey website, which I'll show you in a minute. This program is dedicated, I'm dedicating this Makey Makey to operating this program, which is why I have all of these, the pins on this side that operate the mouse. I remapped. So let me show you what remapping looks like, because this could come in handy when you are doing your stuff. Let me go back to my FaceTime camera. Okay, and let me see if I can get the remapping. So if you just Google right now, Makey Makey remap, you'll your number one hit should come up, and I'm going to show you my screen. I'm not going to be able to do it, unfortunately, because I don't have my Makey Makey plugged into this computer. Okay, so here is this is what I did. So you'll just plug. So there's basically there's two Makey Makeys. One is called a Makey Makey Go, but you were not sent that when you were sent a Makey Makey Classic. And when you remap something, you just click on this and it says, you know, make sure that you have the right Makey Makey, and you will. You'll have a later version. And when you hit start, you'll see this picture here that connects the left, and you'll take an alligator clip and connect the left and right and up and down arrow keys. And the moment you do that, this page that you're on will change. And so what happens is that you'll be able to assign any key on the keyboard to, in other words, the Makey Makey comes out of the box with assignments to your keyboard. When you remap, you can change that. You can switch up everything if you want, or just reassign some of the keys on the keyboard. And the reason you might want to do that, like in my case, I wanted to also replicate, add more letters to the keyboard for the particular Scratch program that I'm running. And I'm going to show you, oops, let me stop sharing here. And I'm going to show you the Scratch program. And if you've got questions, please unmute yourself so that you can, I can hear you, because I'm going to jump back and forth. Okay, so no comments yet. All right, let me share the Scratch. You don't have to use Scratch. Again, the Makey Makey is doesn't care what it's running on your computer, but essentially it's running keys on your computer. That's all it's doing. So let me go back over here to Scratch so you can see this. Here's the sampler program that I had my friend recreate, and I'm going to show you where the original version of this is on the Makey Makey website, and I can describe why I like the Scratch edition. So let's see here. I'm going to turn up the volume. So
check it out, y'all.
all right, so that's what this does. Now, is there anyone, I'm going to stop here. Is anyone here, actually do this for me. Should I spend any more time on Scratch and how to assign sounds to a specific key on the keyboard? Would that be useful? It doesn't even need to be, it could be words, could be spoken words. Literally any sound that you would like, you can assign to a specific key on the keyboard. And I can show you how to do that if you like. If not, I can just share. I think I have a video on how to do that. All right, so I'm going to assume that nobody is interested in that, or am I giving you enough time?
I think I'm just trying to get a holistic idea of the arcade game design challenge as well.
Yeah,
This is all
yeah.
good. I'm enjoying it. So I'm just wondering some ways like is a scratch gonna be expected or because I got some
No.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like yeah.
Yeah, scratch is not expected, as not required. So the did you Sean, did you read the document of that is the design challenge document?
I did, and I went through the videos, and personally for me, I really like the arcade cabinets people went with, but some other people and NCSU are more interested in making like the pool noodle or some kind of crazy open-minded game. So they kind of touched on the idea you had with the tinfoil, and they touched on if you hit it with something.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, was that
that's
the
what,
one that was like a paddling type of
yeah,
game?
yeah,
Yeah, that's my friend Colleen in Austin, Texas, who did that. Um,
interesting.
yeah. So again, the game that you create, really, you can create it separate from the Makey Makey. If you can control it on your keyboard, you can control it with the Makey Makey. That's the way you can sort of conceive of this. So the idea of gamifying, and so I'm going to give you an example. I was working with a group of teachers, oh my gosh, in Oklahoma, I think, leading a Makey Makey invention literacy workshop. And there was a physical education, a PE teacher in the workshop. And at one point in the workshop, it's a day-long workshop, the teachers are given a chance to an hour to design something and build it, and then show it off at the end of the hour. So he built a Tetris game, and of course, being a PE teacher, he built these, and I'm going to show this to you because this is a way to gamify. Let me show you this giant. I borrowed his idea. He built his with just scrap cardboard, and I'm going to show you what I did with this. So this is one of 4 giant arrow keys that I have, and this is coroplast. If you're familiar with this, you know, like political signs or, you know, signs on the side of the road, it's like plastic cardboard. And so
Yeah,
there's a sandwich here that you can sort of see, and there's foam
yeah,
separating the two. And so just like you saw a moment ago, I had I'm in order to operate this arrow, and this one, I think, what did I dedicate this one to? This is gamepad number 3 of 4, and I think I dedicated this one to this is a right arrow key. Anyway, so I've got all 4 arrow keys because I wanted to play Team Tetris. And what does Team Tetris look like? Well, this PE teacher had made these giant buttons and spread them out in a room. And so on the screen, you could see the Tetris blocks coming down. And I'm going to assume everybody here has played Tetris. If you haven't, just Google Tetris game, Tetris. And so he spread these big buttons out in the room. And so you were playing by yourself, having to run back and forth, hitting these things, trying to get the highest score. And so they're the most popular podcast on NPR is called Science Friday. Some people call it Sci-Fi. And pre-pandemic, they used to hold 2 live events a year, one in San Francisco and one in New York City. And they would invite people to come in for, and it was sort of, trivia night all around science. And they contacted me and they said, hey, at intermission, can you do something that would be kind of sciencey and geeky and fun and holds people's attention? And I said, yeah. And so that's why I made these. I imagine a stage which is what they had. And we got 4 volunteers. We had 4 teams of 4, and each team came up and each person stood next to an arrow, and they were facing the audience looking at a monitor, and behind them projected on a giant screen was the Tetris game. So they were looking at a monitor in front of them, looking at a Tetris game, and the same game was being projected behind them because we figured the audience would want to see how they're doing. And their goal was, as a team, to get the highest score, and you could only operate your arrow. And so we weren't sure how entertaining it was going to be, frankly. And it turns out people in the audience loved it. People
Yeah.
were screaming, left, right,
It sounds
right.
fun. Yeah.
And the audience really got into it. It was so funny. They were like, that was the best, that was the most fun we've ever had at intermission. Please do that again. So did it again over in San Francisco. But to give you an idea, this is speaker wire. And so on the back of this, it looks kind of weird, but I have alligator clips, and the alligator clips literally clip right on here. You can sort of see. And so the sandwich area in here, the foam that you can almost see right there, is separating 2 pieces of aluminum foil tape that is typically used in HVAC. And I have some of that. It's this stuff. I get this at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's your
this is,
conductor.
it's a conductor, and so I have a big X on both of the inner sides of this, and the foam separating them. And so that way, when it's not being pressured, it's not on, if that makes sense. So anyway, in reality, what I should have done was soldered these so that it was more permanent, because as people played with them and got kind of rough with them, they came disconnected, and then people got frustrated as they were playing. So my point here is that as you are building your arcade game, think in terms of transportation, one, and ways to make solid connections, which is why I love these little connectors that I showed you. I don't even know the name of them, but I found them on Amazon. I can put it in the document if that would be helpful, or I can put it up here on in the chat if that's useful. So that's an example of how to gamify, what is typically a, one person sitting at their laptop or on their phone playing a classic game. But, now you've turned it into this collaborative, competitive, try to get the highest score type of thing. So what you might do, oh, sorry, that's my dog. It's the evening when the deer are out. I live next to the national forest. So one thing as you think about your arcade design is that I have found when I'm working with teachers is that individuals and groups, if they're working in a small team, like to try to get the quote highest score so that you can have a clear winner. And I'm going to show you another game, sort of a do-it-yourself game, and maybe some of you have played this game. So you ever played what is it called? Operation.
Yeah.
So did you ever play that as a kid, Sean?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I made my own Operation game, and this one, so these are little pockets. I don't know if you can sort of see that given the reflection and whatnot, but I have this foam, and I dug out holes in the foam and pushed in those holes so that they match up with this robot. And never mind these wires coming out of the top. That's makes it more. And then when I put these over top of each other, I can put rubber bands. I'm showing you this because I've always thought it would be cool to do a ginormous version of this. So I just would cover this with these two rubber bands. Now it stays together. And I have a little baggie of electronic components like a resistor, a capacitor, a transistor, and I put them in the little compartments here. And here's what I do next is over here. Oops. Again, gamifying. You could supersize this thing. Is I have these tweezers that are connected with this long alligator clip, and I take the other end of this, the alligator clip, and I just connect it to the other side of this platform or this robot, because the other underside is conductive. And now when I make this connection, if I'm not careful, when I pick out the electronic component, the computer program just buzzes. So it basically you're making a connection. You don't even need to have a program really. You can just use a existing like piano program sound. So those are some ideas. Here's one other thing. While I pulled this out, I have to return this to my friend Steven. This is some really light gauge copper wire that's just insulated. And it's almost hair thin, but it's conductive enough. And I've used this on projects as well. So I'm going to stop here. It's because we're already like almost 20 or 40 minutes into this. Is this useful?
Yeah, it is. It is very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. What questions do you have? Would you like to bounce around some ideas of things that you're considering making?
I really liked your Tetris piece idea. I'm gonna try and not steal that because sounds very cool. You know what I mean? You said radio wire. Do you know what gauge that radio wire was by any chance?
This stuff right here.
No. You said you use radio wire for those.
Oh, speaker
pieces.
wire.
Speaker wire. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah,
Do you know what gauge it is by any chance, or do you just
No, it can. I bought the least expensive at
least expensive?
Lowe's. I was in Lowe's and it was on sale.
Gotcha.
So, but you know, the some of the least expensive wire is actually telephone wire when they hardwire a house, which apparently
Yeah.
doesn't happen as much anymore because
No.
there's 4 strands in telephone wire.
Yep.
Yeah. So that stuff is golden, because oftentimes if I come across that in a garbage can, I take it up immediately because it's perfect.
That's good. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have an idea of what you think you might want to make? Because I've done driving programs, competitive driving programs, where you could build a NASCAR car and try to navigate your way on a screen. And again, this is where you would have your laptop connected to a larger monitor. That's one of the things that I've realized, like playing Tetris. The first time I did it just on a laptop, and it's really, it's not as exciting unless everybody can see it, type of thing. So if you have a driving program, it's cool to have a bigger screen or a bigger monitor, so everybody can watch you do this. Flash, I'm glad that we've moved away from Flash, because it was not it's not good for computers. It was so buggy, but there were so many great Flash programs. And now when I go looking for programs, I'll go to so I'm going to share my screen again. So if you're looking for a particular game, I'm going to share how you can I'll just go to the Scratch website here, and let's see. Wow, where is the search feature on this? Explore. Man, where am I missing? Because this is my login. Oh yeah, there we go. Sorry. I don't know why they have my name up there. But so let's say that you're looking for a driving game. Um, in the past, I would go looking for a Flash game. Uh, I mean, we're talking, how long has it been since Flash has no longer been available? 4 years or something? But if you said, "Oh, I want to explore some driving games," there's tons of them on Scratch, and some of them work really well with a Makey Makey. In other words, they just use up, down, left, right arrow keys. And if you're not familiar with Scratch, you can open any program. I don't know. I'm going to open. Let's see. And some of these are are made by fifth graders who are just learning the program. And so arrow keys to move, space to clear. So if I use the arrow key, here's here's a really basic interesting driving game. All right, so that's not, so there's no sound effects, but here's the cool thing. With Scratch, you can do this. You can click on see inside and see how they programmed it. And if you want, you can hit this green remix button and make it your own. In other words, you can't change Tiny Cool Girl 123. You can't change the code on this game, but if you hit the remix button, it'll show up in your stuff. That's what I think they call it on Scratch. And now you can change the code if you want. So that gives you a place to start if you want to create your own code. There is, I think while I'm here, and I got to drag this down so I can see where I am. There, if you Google, let me put this in the chat. No, shoot, I don't think I can access chat unless I stop this. So I'm gonna put this link in chat. This is I made a bunch of the videos on this page. These are all the different types of switches and sensors. Not all. This is an assortment of switches and sensors that you can build using just cardboard and aluminum foil. Excuse me. And where that comes into play is like if you have a driving game, you might need to incorporate some aspects of these switches and sensors in your work. And then let me go over here. I'm going to share my screen again. And let's see here. Okay. All right. So here at the Makey Makey webpage, there's a link that says apps, and there's the plug and play apps. These might come in handy for you as well. You saw me using the classic bongos earlier. And one that is interesting. Oh, here's the audio sampler that I was using earlier. And this just opens in a new window. So you could conceivably make a game.
Check it out, y'all.
You could conceivably make a game using the audio sampler. And let's see here. If you did not want to learn how to code in Scratch, but you wanted to assign specific sounds to specific keystrokes, you would use this program called the interactive poster app. So you don't need to know. All you got to do is follow the instructions here, and it'll show you how to assign those sounds that you want. And then here's a cool one. It's sort of like, it's called Make a Sketch, but it's essentially it's Etch a Sketch. And so you can let's see if I can, yeah, so I'm just using the arrow keys, and so you could have an Etch a Sketch where people are collaboratively making things together. or the first team to make a specific diagram, a makey makey soccer game, and I think that this one has different. Yeah, let me see here. Let me slide this window over because I'm blocking. Yeah, you can control the number of players. Yeah, you can just play with one. And goals to win, ball type. Let's see what other, beach ball, bowling ball. So you could create a soccer game without really coding, but the real design work is going to come into how you build that game. And are they using their feet, for example? Are they using their hands? Are they rolling around on little scooters? That type of thing. Fruit catcher, the timer app. I've seen. This could potentially the scoreboard. I've seen teachers use this in the classroom, and so you can play around with that one as if you needed to keep score with something in your game. There's a bubble pop thing here, dungeon rescue. So there's a several games that you can play without having to worry about coding. The real challenge with these is going to become how interesting is the interactivity piece to this. Are you using foam noodles as swords? And when people jump, are people literally having to jump in the air? Because I've seen people do that where you have a button, like I've showed you these what I'm calling a pressure sensitive button that's 6 feet, 7 feet in the air, and they literally have to jump up and hit it with their hand to when it comes time to jump in the game, if that makes sense. So now you're thinking about games and turning it into a physical sort of challenge type of thing. And then there's this pinball thing. I mean, imagine a giant pinball game, using pool noodles, where you can use the I don't know, big giant buttons and a big screen, and people have to play collaboratively with left and right. And I'm looking at oh yeah, so you can change the level of difficulty. So now let me see how I can play this. Play, and so I'm operating the left and right arrows. That's all this one takes. So you get the idea. Instead of just playing with the keys, now you got to supersize things and make it fun. So again, using existing games on Scratch or on the Makey Makey website, and then connecting it to the physical world using your Makey Makey. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and see if there's any questions. All right. How are we doing? We got 10 minutes left. You're welcome, Andy. You're welcome, Sean. All right. No questions? I'm happy to answer them. Looking for suggestions? I can point you in the right direction for things. Let me see if I've shared all the stuff that I brought to our meeting. Yeah, I think I have. So I will mention this last thing. If your Makey Makey is acting a little weird, sometimes you just got to plug it from the computer and plug it back in, and that will clear it. And every once in a while, a Makey Makey will get confused about something, or pick up an electrical charge, and it will act a little funky. So just unplug it and replug it back in. Well, I'm happy to answer questions by email. Certainly, Andy. Yeah. You could send me a picture of what you're working on, and I could offer suggestions on how to improve switches. And again, I'm going to go back to whatever kind of switch you make, really focus on making a good job, a great connection between the Makey Makey earth. It says earth on it, it's ground, and the thing that's at the other end of that wire. So it's whatever you do to make it really solid. Could be soldering, and attaching it to a piece of aluminum sheet versus aluminum foil. Would anything you can do like that to really make it a great connection.